Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life. Welcome back. Another episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy. So happy to be here today. This episode 205. We have got the hilarious Andy Fiori, friend of mine from comedy. He's also has his own show on Sirius XM called The Raw Report every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you check that out. But we are talking about resilience, how to properly raise your kid and not make them entitled, even though we both don't have kids. So it's kind of hilarious. Talking about his special, the importance of self-validation, and also just what it would be like to be canceled and how to set yourself up to not be canceled. And just to really kind of, we have a fun conversation about his dad and comedy. So it's a fun episode. Definitely stay tuned and listen to this and go check out one of Andy's shows. He is brilliant and amazing. So we will be right back with our guest after this brief message. Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show. All right, fancy people, we are back with our amazing guest. We've got comedian Andy Fiori with us today. What is going on?
Hi. I like fancy people. That's fun.
That's what I call my listeners. I think they're fancy people. They're coming here to get happier, healthier, and wealthier. So
therefore, so disappointed with my level of fanciness. I'm literally in a hoodie, unshowered, dirty t-shirt, and I have a cap on because if you see me wearing a cap, that means I have not showered today. That is always my giveaway.
Okay, so because you're a comedian, though, do you typically shower before shows?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
If you're lucky.
If you're okay, all right. So don't go near your balls.
No. Well, that's a good just rule of thumb in general. But yeah, no, I usually wait till if you shower at 2 p.m. and then you don't got to go out till 8 or 9 o'clock tonight, there's too much room to screw that up. I'll take a nap and then I'll ruin my my nicely coiffed hair, or I'll spill mustard on my t-shirt because there's going to be 3 meals in between 2 and 8, so it's not good. Yeah, I like to as a general rule shower as close to my departure time as possible.
Yes.
As if I'm leaving in a half hour, 20 minutes before then I'm jumping in the shower.
Yeah, that makes sense. You want to feel fresh, you know what I mean? I always had this thing where I used to do that, and then I found I had more energy and was more productive when I just got up and showered.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't think, and you know what I used to do when I was doing comedy a lot in New York?
What?
I would actually, I had a day job. So I would get up, at 7 a.m. I would shower. I would go to the day job. I would come home, put on my gym clothes, go to the gym. Then I'd come back. I'd put on the same clothes, no shower, nothing, and would head out because I don't really smell that much. So I would do that all the time because I'm like, I don't want to dry out my skin. Yeah. So I would go to the gym and then literally show up to a show.
Yeah. Sorry, fancy people.
I was like, they're not close enough to my hoo-ha, and my hoo-ha's good. I'm a clean person. We're good.
Yeah, we got clean hoo-has. That's good.
Exactly. So when I talk with comedians, I always like to talk about the topic that is so prevalent and that comedians are all scared of, which is being canceled. Doing a joke and one Karen in the audience can flip the entire script. Do you have a fear of that, and how do you kind of get around it? And you can speak for your friends too if you've had this conversation.
Well, I think there's a couple different things you hit upon there. One is if it's a one person who is doing it in the audience, I'm not afraid of that at all. I've been doing stand-up for 20 years. So if, one person is going to act up, heckle, I'd rather you not do it, but I don't have a problem with that confrontation during a live show. Do you know what I mean? It's a part of what we do and it's never going to go away. So if one person is just being, shitty during the show, then you handle it. Or eventually, I think if it's a club worth their salt, they'll throw the person out if it's becoming a real distraction. Because essentially, that's what it is. It's that person either, wants the attention or just doesn't like one particular thing that you said, but has agreed with everything else you said. I don't know. That's such an arbitrary thing. But the other point of, real cancellation, I think, is when someone's career gets taken away for
Yeah.
something that they've written on Twitter or said on stage, or, there's been a million things, obviously, or, obviously the most prevalent one is sexual abuse in whatever form. That
Yeah.
seems to be the big one.
Yeah.
Um, that it's like degrees of murder, like there's first degree murder, there's fifth degree murder, where it's manslaughter. There's many different levels, I think, of cancellation. Somebody could get in trouble for a shitty joke on Twitter. Should they never be able to work again? Of course not.
I
You
know
know what
that's
I
just
mean? Like,
bullshit.
that's
Yeah.
a joke that didn't hit or whatever. And you know what? I'm sure there's people who found it funny and people who didn't. But unfortunately, in the social media world we live in now, that kind of, the hoi polloi, the masses, unfortunately, wield way too much power. It's mob
Yeah.
rule, unfortunately.
No,
So if there's
totally.
a also, but then if there's a person who is, like a serial rapist or has committed crimes, literally, crimes, um, even then, it's like if they've served their time and been punished or whatever, and it's again a very gray area, then yeah, that should obviously be taken way more seriously, and the correct punishment should be enforced. Um, but like Louis is a good example because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people seem to think that, you know, what he did was to varying levels of abuse, I guess. It doesn't sound like the right word, but I don't know really what else to say there. He jerked off in front of women. I don't know if he asked permission. It seems like some did, some didn't. So like it's a whole gray area. And he, apologized and has was seemingly canceled, lost millions of dollars, lost TV shows, lost a lot of stuff, and now is just trying to do stand up again. And I think
Yeah.
that's okay.
And the audiences have spoken. Clearly, he is
Right.
able
He
to
sold
do
played
Madison
Madison
Square
Square
Garden.
Garden last week.
So that's the thing too. Before you do something to get canceled, build an audience so big that you can't be canceled.
Well, there
That's
you
the
go.
thing. Be uncancelable. That's the where you want to be.
That's exactly in our field, exactly the sweet spot, because it seems that that is the only major, not major, I should say the only um, way that that the masses can't take anything away from you. It's because, well, you may be canceling me, but my fans are still there, so it doesn't matter if you don't like me.
Well,
They're gonna come.
yeah, and that's exactly right. And then you've got, and here's the thing, it's like you have, Pam Anderson recently came out with a book a few months ago, and she was making, statements in there that could hurt different people. And it's kind
Right.
of like you had to wait on certain things if
Can't
networks
believe I
were
was left out of that book.
right, exactly. But it's kind of like it gets to a point where, yes, if you were a piece of shit and you did things, what degree
Yeah.
of a piece of shit were you? But at the same time, it's like, I feel like there's this massive, like, let's cancel this guy because he did something 30 years ago.
I know.
People change and evolve,
Of
and
course.
we need to be forgiven. So
Right.
what was the extent of it? Like, people can't just sit there and be like, well, I'm going to ruin this person's life because they did. Was it 30 years ago? Why didn't you address it
I
then?
know.
So I
They
think there
came after
should,
John Wayne a couple years ago. He was been dead for 40 years. Right? You can't ruin his career. Like,
exactly. So
don't
it's
watch The Searchers anymore. I guess
there
that's your big point.
there needs to be a limit, because you can speak, everyone can speak from experiences. Were you the same person? Are you the same
Nobody,
person
of course not.
today that you were
Obviously.
at 20?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
And people make mistakes. It could be youth. It could be just it could be anything. It could be they were in a dark period of time. Maybe drugs or alcohol. It's so arbitrary and subjective. Nobody knows. And like you said, unless it's like a physical actual crime that they're being convicted, indicted, and punished for, then I mean, are we supposed to suffer for the rest of our lives because you said you made a rape joke or something? I don't know. It's comedians are obviously gonna stand up for this. I think a lot more than um
Yeah.
I hate quote unquote civilians or whatever. But I mean, it's also a thing of entitlement too, where people go after let's say a certain comedian because they made a joke that they don't like. Well, other people do. So just because you don't like it, then the whole world doesn't like what kind of pretentious entitlement is that?
So if you go to the psychological thing, I wrote about this in my book actually, right? When you are in a comedy club or a certain place where you're in a group environment and something is said that you just happen to hear or experience it and you choose to take that on when it wasn't
Yeah.
about you, it was a joke. That is a narcissistic behavior and you're only
100%.
yeah, you're making it all about you, and so something's wrong with you. So I always tell people, when you're offended, go to the facts and say, why did that make me feel offended? Did it question something that I'm not really sure I believe? Did it
Right.
question a weakness within me? Or did something shitty just happen and you were passing by? I think what we need to cultivate in our society is forgiveness and understanding that things happen and to not personalize it. Because I think we're getting to a point where people are afraid to play certain venues because of being
Mm-hmm.
canceled. And it's funny because we're cowtailing towards such a small percentage of people that are offended. When you look
I
at the
know.
masses, I think it should be this: I'm offended. That's blah, 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 whatever fucking term you're going to put at it, right? I think we should take a national poll. And if
Okay.
it's more than 50%, well, then that person has a right to be offended. That
Everybody
offended
has the
is
right. That's what's
just
great, you know?
exactly, but it's the
And you have the
right
right to
to
voice your
vocalize.
opinion too.
Yeah.
I don't go ahead and voice your opinion, but
But when you get to a point where you're personalizing something and you're going after somebody's livelihood, there's
yeah,
something within you that is broken. We all have those
of
moments where you're
course.
like, that motherfucker,
I know.
they
Like
didn't call me back after a date. They fucked me and
how
didn't give me a
vindictive can some people
relationship.
be?
But it's like, let it go. Let it go. It's
Yeah,
just not
yeah.
worth it.
I know. It isn't. It really is not worth it. And you're right. It's like, what else do you have going on in your life? I think we're just scratching the surface that you're mad at a joke. Something else is going on there.
Well,
You know what I mean? It's like, what, you have no bigger problems than to go after a comic or whoever for offending you. The joke, I guarantee, wasn't even about you. It's a broad, most
no.
jokes are broad statements
And it
that
takes us
are,
forever to do the jokes, and we work them out so many times.
I
I'm like, you
know.
chose to be offended. The joke's been done 50 fucking times.
Yeah, the privilege and the entitlement is the word I keep coming back to, because it's just the, oh, how dare you? But it's like, well, the guy next to you seems to love it. So you
Yeah.
are going to speak for him. You're going to speak for the whole rest of the world. That's
Oh,
what I hate. It's that because one person's opinion, they think it's wrong. They think the whole world shouldn't get to enjoy something, or it's really fascist shit.
I know it's just crazy, but that's the thing is when we created a trophy culture where everyone got a
Yeah,
trophy. No, you suck. You need to know where you suck. I
I
suck at
know.
singing. I should not get a trophy.
Come on, give us a few notes,
You know,
Madison.
yeah. Amazing. I'm
All
just
right,
kidding.
never mind.
But you know what I mean? I think it's just this entitlement thing. You're not entitled to anything. You don't have a right. Life isn't fair. You have to earn
Yeah,
your place. You have to know your skills. You have to work hard. I think it's like, hopefully this younger generation, I think that hopefully the parents are so fucking fed up with it that there's going to be some
I do think that.
changes.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully, you
I
know.
do think it's going to go. I think it will always hit in cycles, because you're going to have people. I think maybe like our age, our generation, who are going to start to have children and are seeing the effects of that
Entitlement.
trophy culture and entitlement. And go, where I'm not putting my kid through that, and I'm not going to let them go to like super woke schools or
No,
anything like that and get
no.
indoctrinated. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
Yes.
Because I do think so much of that is going on without maybe even parents' knowledge. But it's like, yeah, well, all right, maybe that's on you then. You got to make sure what is happening to your child is lining up with how you want them to be raised. You see a lot of people, and they go, I
It's
had no idea that this non-binary whatever thing was teaching my kid, prone, like,
yeah.
well, get in there and find out what the syllabus is that semester.
And yeah, thank God a
But I
lot of
mean, I
parents
don't want
are.
my child to, you know, uh go play soccer and the game to end in a tie every single time. It's like, you got to learn how to
Yeah.
lose, and you got to learn how to be a gracious loser.
And when
That's part
you
of it. And you got to learn
exactly.
not to be a sore loser, and you got to learn how to lose graciously. That was a whole part. I played sports my entire life from a very young age. I played ice hockey, and you'll meet a really good class of people. Ice hockey players are really good people because there's a
Yeah.
culture of graciousness in losing. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Where it's a handshake is always, like at the end of the game, it's hey, good game,
Yeah.
no matter win or lose. And it's like, yeah, that's in that developmental stage that carries on into other aspects of life. It's so, oh, I didn't get a promotion. I'm not going to go whine about it now in my professional life. I'm going to
Eh,
graciously accept it and maybe work harder
yeah,
to achieve what I
exactly.
want.
One of the biggest life
Put it on
skills
me.
that
It's
will,
on me.
yeah, and one of the biggest skills for success in life is resilience. And you can't learn
100%.
resilience if you don't have, if you haven't lose, if you haven't,
Totally.
lost.
And the mindset of, well, I didn't get it this time, but I mean, they'll make it up to me some. Like, then what are you? There's no incentive there. If you're just going to be
Yeah.
handed everything, what's the incentive to work now? And you see in over COVID and even after COVID, nobody wants to fucking work anymore.
But how are they
It's
surviving? I don't
I
get it.
don't know. I don't know if the government is making it too easy, or like I don't know if handouts are. I don't know because I'm not a part of that world, but
Yeah.
somehow they are. But I mean, it really is a scary time when people don't want to work and they are fine with it. Like I
Yeah.
grew up with a depression era dad. My dad was an old dad who literally was born in 1923. So I
Wow.
had that shit instilled in me. Like old school
Yeah.
manners, old school kind of mentality, be smart with your money, never take
Uh-huh.
anything for granted money wise. It never
Yeah.
have a, don't think of things with a safety net mentality. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of flabbergasted at it somehow where I'm just
So
like, all right, I guess.
yeah, so you should consider yourself blessed because I think the way
Yeah,
you
I
were
am.
raised was much better than this. Everything's given to me, you know,
Totally.
because you appreciate things, you know how to work hard, and those skills will take you to the top.
Absolutely. And listen,
Not
I
that I
get it.
deserve this.
I'm sure it's so much easier as a parent to just placate a child and give them something to stop a tantrum or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's just like, all right, I don't know if I'm trying to remember back to when because I was a kid too. I threw tantrums when I didn't get what I wanted
Of course,
because you're
we
a
all did.
child. But I think I was either just like sent to my room and I didn't have any sort of outlet. Like I didn't grow up with a TV in my room or a phone or, it's like, I don't, I guess the point I'm trying to make is when I was punished, I was punished and I wasn't able to take a punishment as like, all right, well then that's just me time, because like when I got sent to my room, it was like, how long until I can fucking come out again? It's like I'm not getting sent to my room with my phone and my TV and my, you know,
I know. Do you know
like
where
my
I
computer, my laptop, and my iPad.
do you know where
You
I
know,
used to get sent
that
when
sounds like a
we
reward.
exactly. So when we were little, our parents were like, "We're not sending you to your room with all your shit." My
Yeah, I didn't have
brother,
shit.
do you know where we got sent? We got sent to the toilet. We had to sit on the toilet.
The woods.
The toilet, yeah. And
That's
one
great.
time,
Figure out how this gasket works so you can fix the toilet. That's
yeah,
great.
exactly. So you would just have to sit on the toilet. So you had nothing to do except stare
Wow,
at
that's
yourself
pretty
in the
good.
mirror, sit on the toilet. But and that was before cell phones and iPads, and we didn't
Yeah,
have
of course.
TVs in our room, and they could take
So
the phone off the hook.
right, that
But
was my
still,
point, I guess, is that I have, my friends are all parents of toddlerish aged kids. And like a lot of them, they go, dude, you just don't know how easy it is to give them the iPad and just
yeah.
tell them to fuck off. And I go, I'm a lazy man. Trust me, I know that instinct, but you got to do some parenting at some point.
Yeah. Well, I know, and it is a challenge, and there's a lot of people that are opting to not have kids because it is difficult.
Yeah,
Whether they're going to regret that, I'm one of them. I'm on the fence about it. Am I going to
right.
regret it when I'm 70 years old or 80 years old? Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. But parenting is definitely a difficult thing. But you look
It's
at,
not that hard.
but there's a
It
lot of
doesn't seem
pressure
like that much work.
because you look at a child or a person, and it is a how they behave is a direct reflection of their parents
Yeah,
up
for
until
sure.
they're out of the house. Once they're past their 20s, you're like, I don't have any fucking thing to do with this anymore.
Right.
But it's a lot of pressure of how
Yeah.
it's a big thing. That's why when you're dating, one of the key questions is, tell me about your childhood. What's your relationship like with your parents? Because
Mm,
it's a determiner of just how they are as a person. So it's a lot of pressure on those parents.
I know. They fuck everything up.
Exactly.
They're doing their
Exactly.
best.
So I want to talk about, you released a special in
I did.
October that is
Hmm.
done well. I've watched
Thanks.
it. It's hilarious. So tell us
Thank you.
about that special and kind of the whole process of gearing up towards it, and how many times did you film it? Give us like a backstory of what it takes to
Sure.
film a comedy special.
Well, I just decided that I wanted to do it. Netflix really wasn't knocking down the door for a 40-year-old white guy who looks like a young version of Santa at this point. They seem to have that quota filled. So I decided to just produce it on my own because I had been headlining and touring with this kind of set for about an hour. I mean, I'm sorry, about a year. And it was kind of that first year right after COVID,
Hmm.
um, that I decided I wanted to get this stuff just done with because there is a little bit of COVID out material in there in the very beginning. But your goal is to make a special watchable 10 years from now and have it be evergreen.
Yeah.
And I think we're obviously always going to remember COVID. I don't think we're ever going to really be like, what was that thing that happened again in 2020? So there's a little bit of material that I think is going to last because everybody's going to remember what that felt like at that time. So that was the main thing, is I wanted to get it out. And, as a comic, it's the best motivation to move on from material and start writing new stuff is to just get it out there and be done with it,
Hmm.
at least for me, because I'm a slow writer and I'm a lazy writer. So I wanted to get that stuff out there. And it's kind of funny that we were just talking about parenting because it's a nice segue, because it's called check right, which is a phrase my dad used to say.
Okay.
It's in tribute to him. I dedicated the special to him. Watch all the way through the credits. It's a very sweet ending that I dedicated to my dad. But check right was the
Oh.
thing that he used to say when we would be in the car together. And he was a guy who was one of these dudes who was like, you're not taking my license away. I mean, I don't know if you've ever driven with a 95-year-old. It is fucking
Oh. Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like a paramedic without an ambulance.
Yeah.
Everywhere is an emergency. And for whatever reason, even when I was a little kid, my dad used to come up to an intersection and you'd be sitting in the passenger seat and he'd look left and he'd bark at you. He'd go, check right, which meant that it was your job to look at the traffic on the right side of the world and let him know if it was clear to go, which is bananas behavior. Like it was always crazy to me, even as a kid. And you have to be accurate. You have to learn because he's trusting. He goes on your say so. So like there was a lot of close calls, Madison. Like if you mumble sometimes, he was 96. He didn't hear well. So if you'd be like, check right, you'd go, no. And he'd hear go and then just take off into the middle of
Oh
traffic.
shit.
So that's the special that was named after him. He passed away in 2020. So
Oh, sorry
there's
about
some
that.
stuff about him, obviously. And
Yeah.
he was a classic American icon too. He was a World War II veteran. Like I said, he was born in 1923 and just really like a physically fit guy my entire life. I never felt like I had an old dad. He did everything with me that like a quote unquote normal age dad would do.
Yeah.
Catches in the yard, came to my sports games, just helped me with homework. Literally. And I was his first child. He didn't start having kids until he was 55.
Wow.
So if you do like those little kind of increments of math, like when I was 15, he was 70, and like when I
Wow.
was 21, he was, 76, which is
Yeah.
it's old,
Yeah.
and it was just like a hit. My friends loved him. Everybody loved him. He sang barbershop quartet his whole life. He was an Olympian in 1948.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
yeah, like a classic caricature just of an American. And so he was an important figure in my life. So I had a lot of that material about him. And then, he passed away in 2020. So I really wanted to just kind of finally put a period on that kind of part of my life too. Um, so that's the major motivation of why I wanted to do it.
I
Then
love
the
that.
prep, yeah, it's a fun special. I love it. I'm really proud of it, and it's
Yeah.
not sad in any way. These are all there's no like dead dad jokes. It's just kind of stuff about him that he loved. But yeah, it's the preparation was just basically just touring it as much on the road as I could, and I was on the road constantly leading up to it, just running it and running it and running it. And then we taped it in March of 2021, right? Maybe it was 22. I guess it was 22. And
Yeah.
yeah, March 2022. And we did it in 4th Street at New York Comedy Club, and we just did 2 shows on a Friday night. We sold out both of them. The crowds
Oh,
were great, and then we just sat down and for the next couple months just like went through it, edited it, and you know, was very kind of lazy about that. Here's the good thing. I'm lucky to have grown up in North New Jersey, which is, an hour outside of the city in Manhattan. So a lot of my current friends are guys I've grown up with. So my
yeah.
director and my editor was a guy I went to kindergarten with, a guy named Chris Morgan.
Oh,
And the good thing about that, Madison, is like you can tell your best friend to like do whatever, fuck off, and like. But the downside of working with close friends is like you can just there's no real deadlines. You're just like, all right, dude.
help me
There's
out.
no professionalism
Yes.
involved. So
Yeah.
there's no
It's a
like
catch
hard
22.
deadlines. You can't really enforce things, and we probably took longer than we should get it out, but we wanted to get it right. And so we
Hmm.
finally it dawned on me when it was, I guess, in September. We were pretty close, and I went, you know what? My dad's birthday is October 6th. Let's fucking release it on what would have been my dad's 99th birthday. I go, so that's a hard deadline for us. And he was like, all right, great, let's do it. And so that was just kind of it all just kind of came together like that. So that
Oh,
was really
that's
the
great.
timeline. Yeah, we went
Yeah.
from March to October, and I had a great group of people working with me. Tony Deo and Andy Hendrickson released it on their label as an audio album with Ghost Runner Records. And Tony Deo and my friend Chris, who I just mentioned, I could not have done it without them. I mean,
Yeah.
they, from the production side to the camera operator, like they had everything in check. And, you know, Tony Deo was a fantastic comic in himself and knew that like I just like he didn't bother me with anything like the day of the taping, handled everything, like knew what it took to allow me to have the best performances I could. So it was just like
Yeah.
a godsend to have those guys on my side. And yeah, I'll say to anybody listening, if you're thinking about doing it, like that's a super important thing I didn't think about, but I'm so thankful that I had was a great its team sounds like such a douchey thing to say, but like these guys did a lot for me that I wouldn't have thought about until something came up. And I was like, oh crap. And Tony's like, I got it. Don't worry about it. You concentrate on your set,
Well,
you
it
know?
comes back to the old thing, who you're surrounded with is the
Totally.
success in your life. So having a good team, no matter what you do, is definitely critical.
Oh, it was
And
huge for me.
and let's talk about the thing is when I think when especially when you start a comedy and then when I had started comedy, the whole goal was to get a Comedy Central special and then Netflix started
Yeah.
blowing up. So it was these specials and everybody would work. I just need you are always working towards somebody else's validation, right? A
Right.
network's validation, a club's validation, a agent's validation, managers, whatever it
Yeah.
was, right? But now with the rise of social media that has its negatives, but a lot of positives, is that you're the only one holding you back now.
Yep.
You didn't have to wait for Comedy
Yeah.
Central or Netflix or any of these
I
other
know.
things. You were like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And what I think it's proven is it's more profitable in the long run as you build up that audience.
Absolutely. It is such a
So,
great time for comics who are, to be independent. It really
yeah.
is a great thing to not have, I guess, gatekeepers is the word, because there were
Yes.
so many great comics that were maybe not seen by the
Yes.
masses because you had somebody standing in the way,
Mhm.
because you didn't have a thing like YouTube.
Yep.
And now if you make something, you're going to get eyeballs on it. If you make something, can put it out there.
And
I
it's
think it's such a beautiful thing.
Oh, it is great too. But I think there's, downside with some of you heard some of these big celebrities come out. I think Jennifer Aniston, don't quote me on it. But she was like, what happened to pure talent? Now you have
Yeah.
influencers because they have a bunch of
Well,
TikTok or Instagram and now they're in movies because you don't really need talent to necessarily be in a movie. You just need to be able to listen to the earpiece and follow instructions. Now, there's a
sure.
lot of talented people, and that's when they make it. You might be
Yeah.
a shot in the dark or a 15 minutes of fame type person, but
Of
that
course.
I think that's a challenge too, because as you're witnessing in comedy, right? Somebody that is maybe is a terrible comic, or they're just not seasoned enough, because
Yep.
let's face it, this takes a long time to really, 10 years to really get good, right?
Sure.
Are now getting opportunities that people that have worked harder aren't getting because of their following. So I know that that can
Absolutely.
probably be very frustrating for people, but it's like you have to just kind of let that go.
Well, yeah, and it's like there's going to be two sides to every coin in any
Hmm.
situation. It's like, yeah, with the onslaught of social media and people getting huge followings, like for comics, you might get a weekend bumped because this TikToker sold out 8 shows at the St. Louis Funny Bone,
It's
and
true.
you had an average draw of 25 people a night. I go, yeah, all right, they're going to get a better show if it was me, but I can't argue with the business owner who
The
wants
bottom
to make
line.
the. So sure, you're gonna have that, but I mean, also, I am a firm believer in what I guess what Jennifer Anderson said is true. Sure, people of lesser talents are gonna get opportunities, but also I still give the masses credit that talent will rise to the top and quality will find its audience.
Have
I still
longevity.
believe in that, and it'll
Yeah.
have longevity, and people will, appreciate good art or whatever have you. If it is good, I still
Yeah.
think it will find its audience eventually. It might not happen right away, but I give audiences credit. They know what they like. And listen, a lot of those TikTokers who are selling out HOs, it's like, is that the people who are going to that? That's not your audience. They're going like, I don't
Hmm.
know what a lot of people complain about sometimes is going, yeah, I get you might have been bumped from a weekend, but the people going to see a TikToker are not going to see you. I'm talking about
Yeah.
me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because it's
So it's
just a
like, well,
different
they're not
audience.
taking away my audience. They're just it's that's
Just shifting it.
I don't worry about those people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I actually
My audience will
recently,
come from me, and they'll find. You know what I mean? It's like they'll. I'm not worried about uh some TikToker taking away my core audience. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
well, exactly. I remember somebody, I was out on a, I think I was on a date, and we had met at a bar
Well,
and
look at you bragging.
no, it didn't work out, don't worry. And had drinks. And he said to me, not realizing I, used to do a lot of comedy. He said to me, I have tickets after this to the Comedy Works. Do you want to go? Now, the worst thing a
Yeah,
comic
yeah,
wants
yeah.
to do is go to another fucking comedy club, right?
Sure.
So I said, you know what? Why not? So we went over to this club. I'd never heard of this guy before. The place was pretty much sold out. And the host goes, "Are you guys ready for your headliner? You've seen him on TikTok." And that was it.
That's
And
yeah.
and I'm like, what a fucking terrible intro.
I
Like I would
know.
smack that host in the face. But that's why these people were here. Now,
Yeah.
the comic was, he was very young, he was out of LA, he was very, very good. And then of course I went to his TikTok and he had 4 million followers. So I'm like,
Sure.
okay. But he actually was good. He was actually very good.
Yeah.
He told stories, he was clean, he really painted vivid pictures. But when I heard that introduction, I was like, I would have smacked the guy in the face. Like, I want a real introduction, but
I
that
know.
was
Well,
that
we
was
get
it.
jealous too because there's comics of I think our age group and higher, maybe, and maybe even to a lesser extent, probably in another 5 year window where it's like when we started, there just was no social media, so like you just really had to work hard
We were behind the,
to
yeah, I felt
even
like,
get and if any sort of fan,
I
like
know.
you know. So again, it's like if the opportunities are available to you, then
Hey,
take advantage of them. I will
yeah.
never get angry at somebody for doing
Uh-uh.
that. And yeah, it's if you have an audience who likes what you're doing and you stay with it, you're only going to get better over time, hopefully. I mean, I think we just get mad as an older generation of going, they didn't have to put in the work that I did. But, listen, we're comics too. If that shit was there for us in 2003, I would have done it too.
Yeah. Well,
So it's like I'm not being
exactly.
hypocritical. I can't be hypocritical about that. I
Yeah.
would have done the exact same
Trust
thing.
me.
It's like I had to join TikTok out of people.
I
You know,
know.
it's like
I
if
had to give the
I
Chinese my
can't complain
information.
about something and then not do it, and then people be like, "Well, then you have nothing to complain about." You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, it's
If you didn't
exactly.
take advantage of an opportunity that was available to you, you have no right to complain about. There's
Yeah.
somebody using it to its advantages. You know?
Well, that's exactly right. And I think it's just adjusting with the times and being
Yeah.
resilient in how things are changing and being able to adjust quickly and educate yourself is going to get you light years ahead. Now,
Right.
this just
But
popped
and here's
into
the other
my
thing
head.
too. Sorry, before just to go and if for older comics experience veteran comics, if when people find you, they're going to be in for a more enjoyable time because I know what I'm doing and I am already a veteran. And like you're going to get a great show and you're going to
Yeah,
really have fun. Is I'm not going to be green or anything like that. So it's like,
exactly.
just please, yeah, find me and go to my shows. That's all
Yeah.
I want.
Go to his shows, you guys. You can go to his
I
website,
guarantee
Andy
it's going to be fun.
Fiori. He's got a schedule. Now, here's the thing that just popped into my head, which is
Yeah.
so funny. I want to check this out. Do you think that in the near future, or maybe next month, that comics will be using Chat GPT to write their sets? Just wonder, like,
I don't even know what that is.
write me a dick joke about my vagina.
Is
And it's
that?
like,
I don't even know what that is.
it's this new thing. It's an AI program designed by Elon Musk.
Oh,
And you can
okay.
go in and be like, hey, tell me about social anxiety. And it'll fucking in 5 minutes print you out a fucking detailed report
Right,
of
right.
what it is. And so
Yes,
you could
of
be like,
course.
hey, tell me about, but then you have to like code it to be like, give me something that doesn't exist that's brand new
Right.
about bam. So our lives are
Yeah.
getting easier because I was going to use it because I wanted to have some more research on I wanted instead of going to Google and saying, "Hey, how does Sarah Blakely from Spanx wake up in the morning?" Because I want to be more like Sarah
Right.
Blakely, right?
I love that bit.
Then boom, you could just shoot it out and be like, she likes to get up at 6:30 a.m. according to this podcast she did on
Sure. Right.
5 fucking minutes. So it's gonna it could it's not I don't know if it's gonna put Google out of business, but yeah, Google's in trouble
I mean, people
because
are definitely going to use it. Or
Google takes longer to do. If I could just get the
right.
fucking answer, I'm going to.
Uh-huh.
But look at these kids. I can go and be like, you have to write
Ah.
a paper on the history of comedy. Boom.
Ah.
Hey, tell me about the history of comedy. So
How are they going to
we're
monitor
gonna
that in college? That would have been
I
my dream.
we are gonna create dumber people. But the problem
Yeah,
is
that's
more and
true.
more people do this. There's gonna be more plagiarism. So you're then gonna have to take the facts and still make it your own. But right now,
Right,
it's a
right.
lot of originality out there. But interesting stuff. Now let's talk about before we run out of time. This is always interesting. Dating as a comedian, because I
Uh-huh.
found when I was a comedian, I didn't shit where I ate because I didn't want to run into somebody at a comedy club. But at the same
Right.
time, when you're dating a civilian or somebody with a normal life, the timelines don't match up. So how do you find that for yourself and how do you kind of navigate around that?
I don't know. I've done it all. I've done I've dated comics. I've had the one night stands with comics.
Oh
I've
God.
dated like some normal people. I've I it's you're the asking the worst person here because I was never a firm believer in don't shit where you eat. It's probably a good rule of thumb, but I
Mm,
broke it so many times. I mean, my first job out of college was at a PR firm in Manhattan, and I was 23, 24 years old and just 40 pounds lighter and ready to take on anything that came my way. Sat at the desk next to me or not, I was ready. And
yeah.
so yeah, that made for some awkward encounters. And it's probably a good rule. But you are human and you tend to get drawn to the people you see all the most and have stuff in contact with, especially for comedians, because like you said, they know the life, they know the lifestyle. You have the same hours, you see them often, you see them frequently. You might be on this, you probably have the same, type of senses of humor. You have a lot of things in common. Like it all adds up to like somebody you would want to spend time with, you
Yeah.
know? And I don't really buy into the shit where you eat so much as a comedian as it were if I worked for, like a PR firm where it was like you're going in every day 9 to 5 and it's a more formal corporate HRE kind of place. Comedy, it's like I'm on the road. I
You're
know
not,
so many
yeah.
successful comedy couples. It's like our schedules as comedians, yeah, the timeline works, but like we could go weeks without seeing somebody. You know what I mean?
Yes. Months
Like even my
even.
best friends are, comics. We work the same clubs. I might not see them just because of. So I don't know if I really buy into that as like comedians. Like two of my best friends, like Joe List and Sarah Tolomash, are a
Oh,
great
yeah.
couple.
Yeah.
And, if Joe or they go on the road together, that's a great option to have. Or if not, then it's like you have a little bit of time apart. I think it's personally not a bad thing at all, because you as a comic tend to make your own schedule so much, so you can kind of paint the picture and be like, all right, well, I don't need to
So
see this person every single. Yeah, I mean, then
yeah.
again, if it doesn't work out, sure, you're going to run into
Ooh.
that person eventually. But like I said, it's not like at a corporate job every single day you're going to see that person in a meeting, or every single day you're going to walk by that person's desk. You might have an awkward encounter with a person I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be at the same frequency or volume.
Yeah.
But it's
Okay.
like, whatever. Life is made up of awkward encounters, and then, like, hopefully it's not anything like too acrimonious of a breakup. So it's just like, hopefully you can be able to move on and make light or something of the situation. And
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done for most relationships, but
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
exactly. Exactly. So, okay. So
I've
you're
never been.
saying,
I'm the worst. I shit where I eat all the time. It's not good.
okay. So,
I
but
don't
for
know.
comics, it makes sense because I think it would be difficult if you're like,
I
hey,
think
I'm
do what you
dating
want. I don't.
Liz at the bank. She might be like, why do you gotta work all the time? So that could be.
Yeah. I go, wow. First of all, your voice annoys me like that.
You're like, stop talking. Suck my. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. No, that's amazing. No, I do like that. So, where are your gigs coming up? End of April and May,
End of
where people can
April.
come
I'm in.
check you out.
Yeah, please. I'm doing a fun brewery show in the end of April, April 22nd. It is in Branford, Connecticut. It is called crap. It's just written in my calendar as Branford, Connecticut, but I do
Go
have
to
the
his
poster
website
right
and find
here.
it
I'm
out.
gonna mug talking. I know it's right here. It is in the lovely town of Branford at Thimble Island Brewing Company.
Okay,
You can
fun.
go to andyfiori.com, andyfiori.com for tickets to all my shows. April, May is a little light. June I'll be in Hartford at City Steam. November, June 9th and 10th. And yeah, all my dates are coming up. I am with let's see, this is April. So I have a bunch of dates with Tom Papa. He's a fantastic comedian who you can see on
Yes.
Netflix. I open up for him a lot. We have a bunch of stuff in May, and it's a great show. He is super funny. He's already got a new great hour that
Oh,
nobody's seen, and so I highly recommend going to see Tom. He's a guy I have to thank for a lot of my uh small successes in my career. So please check him out. But yeah, you can always
that's
find me on
awesome.
the social media at Andy Fiori. All the same spelling. Just pop my name in. I'll
Okay,
come
and you
up.
got the
Big cat will
website.
come up.
Exactly. And tell us about your show on Sirius XM. I've done it and
Yeah,
I
you were a
loved it.
great guest. It's called The Raw Report. It is on Sirius XM Raw Dog 99 on the comedy dial. It's every Thursday at 4 p.m. Me and Jason Shabiro, my co-host, and our producer Lewis Johnson, and our other co-host Liz Furiotti. She's the GM of the Comedy Cellar. She shows up whenever she wants to. um,
Yeah.
she We have a great roster of guests. We talk to everybody from comedians to actors to anybody in entertainment. That's really who we like. We've had some really fun guests because it's one of the things I thank COVID for, because we used to be locked in to Thursdays at 4 p.m. We used to go live every week,
Yeah.
and it's hard to just get a guest at 4 p.m. on a Thursday
Right.
at that so that once COVID happened, we were able to do everything over Zoom, so we could go to like an A-list celebrity through our talent department, and they would be like, can you do Monday at 10 a.m.? We'd be like, now we can.
Yeah.
So it's really expanded our guest list roster, so we really always
Oh,
have
that's great.
super fun guests. And yeah, and Sirius XM's comedy stuff is so great too. I listen to it in the car.
It is.
It's so fun. The music, I love it. I can't do without it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. So you guys check out his socials, check out his website for the calendar, go check out his show.
Please.
Also listen to
Sorry,
the
I
Raw
ramble.
Report, Sirius XM. This is great. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I
It was a
appreciate that.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you guys listening wherever you may be, I appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us out tremendously. And we will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.